After 20 years of marriage, my wife asked me to take the other woman out for dinner. My wife asked me to take another woman out for dinner. We were married for 20 years. One day I asked my wife out. "Darling, let's go out tomorrow," I said. "It's been a while since we haven't had some fun together." My wife looked at me and didn't speak any words. After a few moments of silence, she said, "I will be busy with our son's project tomorrow. I want you to take another woman out instead of me." I was shocked by my wife's words. "What? Another woman? What do you mean?" I asked surprisingly. "Yes, another woman," my wife said. "Your mother." My wife wanted me to take my mother out instead. She was the other woman my wife was referring to. My mother lived in a small town. I had to leave the town with my wife due to my job in the city. I hadn't talked with my mother for quite some time. I used to send her my money every month and ask her if she had received it. God knows when was the last time I went out with her. So, I agreed to my wife's idea. I called my mother and told her that I was coming to spend an evening with her. My mother was delighted with the news. I could feel her smile on the phone when I called her. As I reached my mother's home the next day, I saw her dressed and ready to go out. Her face was filled with joy. She hugged me tight, as we were meeting after a long time. I took my mother out to a show first. As we were entering the theater, I asked my mother, "Would you like some popcorn and cold drinks?" My mother said, "Yes, son." As I was buying the popcorn and drinks, my mother was staring at me. "What are you thinking, Mom?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "I was just thinking about the time when you were small. You used to cry to have some popcorn and drinks before movies. Now you are buying them for me." After the shows, I took my mother out to a restaurant. I held the menu and asked my mother, "What do you want to order, Ma?" My mother said, "There was a time when I used to hold the menu and ask you the same." I replied, "I remember, Mom. Now let me do that for you." We had dinner, and after that, I dropped my mother at her home. As I was leaving, she hugged me tighter than ever. I felt her pain. She wanted to spend more time. So I decided to spend the night there. The next morning, I left the place early for my office. I went back to the city, and I was back to my usual life. A few weeks later, my mother passed away. It was sudden and took everyone by surprise. I was devastated as I couldn't do anything about it. A few days after my mother's death, I received an envelope from the restaurant. The same restaurant where I had dinner with my mom. I opened the envelope. There was a bill which was already paid for 2 guests and a letter. The letter read, "Son, the time you spent with me that day gave me all the happiness in the world. If you are reading this letter, I am no more. But I want to come to this restaurant to have dinner again. This time not with me, because I'm gone, but with another woman. Your wife. Your father always took care of me. That care of your wife just like that. Give her your time, she will need it." My mom's words moved me. One simple evening with me gave her that amount of joy. I wished if I had only spent some more time with her. I realized one thing that day. You should always take some time for your loved ones. No matter how busy you are.